Welcome to you all. This is Alejandro Feijes. I'm the community manager for International Coaching Community. Many thanks for being with us today. And we are going to present together with Nick Chong, ICC trainer from Brazil, a very interesting topic on intercultural coaching. The title of this webinar is Refining Your Coaching Skills for Intercultural Coaching. And this webinar actually is part of a series of webinars we are going to deliver on intercultural coaching that you can see them already programmed on the ICC website. So we invite you to take a look on the website to join us on the next events also. So I will welcome Nick now just to start the webinar and enjoy this very interesting topic. Welcome, Nick. Do you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear, Alejandro. Hi. Hi again.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Wow. Welcome, everyone. And today we are here for a slightly different topic. It's about coaching skills in a different arena. I call it the intercultural coaching arena because I think today in the world where the internet is accessible to everyone, international traveling is a norm. Intercultural coaching will now be important as much as regular coaching. And why are we here today? Well, over the next 55 minutes or so, I would like to share with you on what is intercultural coaching and what are the skills necessary to conduct intercultural coaching. Right. Before I go on further, can I just have a raise of hands who have attended before earlier on my previous webinars? Just a raise of hands. Do you see anyone raising hands? Well, how do we raise hands? Is on your panel. There is a little hand on the side. So you just click on that icon with the hand. Okay. Okay. I see lots of questions and answers coming down. Right. Right. Okay. Fatima. Hi, Fatima. Gladdy. Hi, Gladdy. Good. And let's go on now. Today's agenda, intercultural coaching, defining it. Some of the frameworks to integrate between culture, intercultural and coaching, exercise and examples. And of course, there will be coaching time. For some of you who have attended my previous webinars, you will be familiar with my concept. That is, what I need you to do is to have fun, have an open mind, and participate. I would, from time to time, call on your name, and that let you answer some of the questions. So it'll be interactive in nature. And if you have any questions, you can pop me those questions through your questions or chat directly. Okay. And now as I'm trying to open this box bigger so that I could see it. Yeah, okay. All right, now. Okay, let's go straight ahead right now. So who am I? My name is Nick Chong. I'm the director for Burdens Consulting in Coaching, Intercultural and Diversity Practice. We are a boutique consulting company. We are based in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We are originally from Stuttgart in Germany. And we also have an office in Shanghai now. So we work on 3 continents, Europe, South America, as well as Asia, based in Shanghai. Previously, I'm originally from Singapore. So I've worked in Singapore, I've lived in Hong Kong, and I've traveled very widely in Asia before I moved to Germany. And I lived in Germany for 5 years before I moved over to Brazil. I've been living in Brazil right now for 5 years now. Well, 5.5 years now, right? My areas of professional background is in sales marketing, project management, PMO. I'm a certified coach and a certified international coach trainer of ICC. I'm also certified in cultural consulting training by COI, and also a qualified administrator with the IDI, which is the Intercultural Development Infantry. Today I will talk a little bit using that framework so that it gives us a basis of what intercultural coaching can do, and some of the things that you need to prepare yourself if you are getting yourself into the arena of intercultural coaching, right? So I speak several languages. I speak Chinese, as in Mandarin Cantonese, English, German, and Portuguese. Right. First of all, hi, Marina noted, popped me a question to say that she had not attended any of my webinars before. That's okay. I would now I have a regular series on intercultural coaching, and that previously I've done reframing, and that one of the topic on regular coaching skills would be on limiting beliefs that I will be touching on sometime soon. So log on regularly to the ICC website if you want to participate in other topics as well. Okay. First of all, let's look at this topic. What is intercultural coaching? In context of coaching, what does intercultural issue mean to executive and for regular coach who have not thought about going into the area of intercultural coaching yet, but are curious? And at this point right now, I would like to just ask a question to everyone. How many of you are doing coaching right now? Just raise your hand. Right. Alejandro, do you see any hands right there? Because I couldn't see any here.
Yes, we have about the 40% of people.
Hand to tell me.
Nick, we have about the 40% of people about that.
Okay, 40% of people doing coaching right now. And how many of you are already dealing with foreigners? And that in terms of, well, when I say dealing with foreigners, I mean in your regular coaching sessions that that you coach foreigners. Raise your hands just to let me know. How many people, Alejandro?
About 10%.
10%, so that's about 4. Okay. Yeah, and that's one question I did forget to ask. Well, this is about intercultural coaching. It's good to know where everybody comes from. So just type where in the Q&A to let me know where you are dialing in from, so that I have an idea my audience profile and where you are coming from. Okay, so I don't see any. From Poland, I see. Portugal, Denmark, Madrid, very good. Mexico, Brazil, Spain, Campinas, that's Brazil, Istanbul, Turkey, Poland. Excellent, excellent. My last session I had about, I think, about 17 countries, right, Alejandro? The last time I had on reframing. So this is this will be also very interesting for me. Today we have from Portugal, Poland, Spain, Brazil, Denmark, Peru, German, Mexican. Okay. Hi, Adriani. Good to see you. Roberto from Spain. Harish. Hi, Harish. Canary Islands, Fatima from Canary Islands. Okay, now let's get back to our webinar proper now. What are the aspects of culture? Now, when we talk about culture, intercultural coaching, very important is that we are very, very clear what we are talking about culture. Let's look at some of what is what does the academic and in the research of culture, they talk about culture, what do they define? That give us a roundabout, a good framework how we approach this concept of intercultural coaching. Culture is very complex, as you can imagine, because for everyone it means different things. But when we look at different answers across the world and across different spectrum of people, these are the kinds of concept we are talking about: sense and self of space, sense of self and space, communication language, dress code, food, time consciousness, relationships, values and norm, beliefs, attitudes, mental process and learning, work habits and practice. Right from here, the issue is, what is the danger of a lack of culture or understanding of culture in this case? I coin this culture competency, especially when you are handling intercultural coaching. It's very important to understand these dimensions, as well as understand what are the pitfalls if the coachee are not aware of the cultural aspects where he's dealing with another culture, people from another culture. And the danger of a lack of cultural competency is really assuming everyone is the same, and we make assumptions that can offend and cause conflict. And a lot of times that means you lose out on opportunities, especially in using talents. Imagine if you are working in a multinational company where you lead international teams. If you are not familiar with certain culture, why people are responding a certain way, why people are not participating, or why some people from some countries, they seem aggressive, or they seem, to your terms, lazy or passive, because we have made some assumptions, and these assumptions can cause a lot of conflicts, and that you may be making a mistake of judging people based on your own criteria, which is, well, in coaching terms, is that you are looking at your world in your own perspective. You need to widen the perspective through the lens of others. And the problems related with culture, and that when things happen, when an executive leaves a country from his origin, and that he lives for an extended period of time in a different country, the problems related to culture could be feeling lost, feel angry, misunderstood, cheated, embarrassed. And for people who also are working with foreigners, they feel the same thing, because it's like, why does my boss think this way? I just don't understand how my boss thinks, because he's from a different country where I'm from. If my boss is from the same country I'm from, where I'm brought up, I can understand why he's saying this in a more intuitive way. So when you make judgment about situation, generalization about situations, you kind of, most of the time, people do not take into account of the culture, because culture basically is what goes behind our thinking process. And some other issues in culture is, of course, what is very famous is culture shock. When you go into a new country, you expect that things are, you expect things that work in your country also works in the same way in this new country. Well, you might be in for a surprise. And this, for extended period of time, can cause a lot of stress for people working outside of their country, and this normally we call culture shock. And for people who've been traveling extended period of time outside their home of origin, there is another problem with culture, and that is re-entry culture shock. And this re-entry culture shock is something that a lot of people has underestimate this shock, because it's something like, for example, if you have been away for the last 3 to 5 years, and that you you only went back to visit your family once, at most twice a year, or sometimes in a year you don't go home, and that most of the contacts you have back home, you kind of like lose track, you stop calling them on a regular basis anymore, which is very normal. What happens is that when you go home, you realize that a lot of things that you were familiar with is strange to you. What seemed to work before seems to be a little bit strange. All those familiar buildings, places that you've grown up in the surrounding have changed. And things that you didn't expect to change. And this is what we call the re-entry culture shock. And how many of you have worked from, how many of you have left your country and worked in a different country from your home origin before? Please raise your hand or type in the regular chatting just to let me know who you are. Okay, I just saw a series of questions that was being thrown at me, which I was just going through my question and answers here. All right, let me just go through one question here. What can you explain what it means, time and time consciousness? Oh, Petro, he taught me this question. Time and time consciousness is something about being on time, basically, and being punctual. In some culture, you expect people to be late all the time. Well, when you are late for 15 minutes, it's not considered late. And in some culture, being late or not turning up on at the time prescribed up to 1 hour is normal. So, and that is this sense of time consciousness, and that behind this dimension of time and time consciousness is about relationship, valuing relationships. Petro, where are you from, Petro? Right, I don't see an answer that quickly. I'm trying to now pull up a bigger screen now to see the big Q&A. Right, maybe Petro had answered my question right in the beginning. Petro's from Portugal. Right. So in Portugal, you're from Lisbon in Portugal. How would it let you feel? How would you feel if people that you work closely with in a big project, or your client, your coachee, he is consistently late? What do you think of him? What makes you think, what is his kind of business ethics, what kind of a person he is, if he's consistently late? Right, I don't see an answer yet, but so this is the kind of questions that you need to ask yourself, your sense of time consciousness. Petro just answered, it's normal to arrive relatively late by 15 minutes. By 15 minutes. 15 minutes is acceptable. Right, so beyond 15 minutes is considered late. I was told one time by a French colleague, I just wonder if anyone is from France. Confirm that with me, okay? Anyone from France. I was invited to have dinner at my French colleague's apartment, and that because of my German heritage, I was very stressed when I was late for just 5 minutes. So when I turned up and I apologized for being late, he said, relax, we French, we expect people to be a bit late, the 15 minutes grace, so that to let the host be prepared. That's kind of common courtesy for French. So Well, if you are invited to a German family or colleague, and if you turn up late, even at 5–10 minutes, you might get a different look from the host. So this is a kind of time consciousness. And we also look at time consciousness in terms of starting on time and ending on time. Okay, I hope that's quite clear on this, because that on this aspect of cultural dimensions, I would explore this in much more detail in the subsequent webinar, because this webinar is actually the first of the series of intercultural coaching webinar, which I like to highlight to you. How do you integrate the coaching framework with the intercultural framework, so that to give you somewhere to start. Okay, so today I should have talked about this right in the beginning. I will not have enough time in 1 hour webinar to go through all the framework and all the dimensions very deeply. But if you throw me a question, I'll try to answer that quickly in 2 minutes. The objective of my webinar is to give you an overview, what's really key in terms of conducting intercultural coaching. If you are not in this arena yet, or you are planning to do it, or if you are doing it already, something that you might want to think about in going deeper into your knowledge scheme on intercultural coaching. Right. Lisbeth asked me if my slides will be available after the webinars. Yeah, I could send you my slides. My only request later, just tell me who wants my slides. You can reply in the Q&A right now here. By the way, I need to apologize for people who attended my last webinar on reframing. Because of my personal situation, I moved from one location to another, and that my personal life had been in a bit of a turmoil because of the move. I have yet to fulfill the promise that I wanted to send you the story on reframing yet. I apologize if you attended and have not received it yet. Okay, good. So let me come back to where we are now. Okay. Okay, keep those questions coming, and that I will, from time to time, I'll refer back to the questions and then read them over. Okay. So the elements of coaching. I mean, 40% of you out there are coach, and that you should be aware. Yeah, Harish, I think you were at my last webinar. I apologize that you haven't received any email from me right now until now from the reframing exercise that I explained because of the move, and I had internet access, very limited internet access. Yeah, so good. So coming back to elements of coaching, what are the elements of coaching? We have awareness, asking, accountability, and action. So these 4 aspects are the 4 principal pillars of coaching, where we want to achieve, to let our coachee take action, to change behavior, to take on new perspective, to think about doing things differently. And we are talking about using these elements of using coaching through these 4 elements. And in the ICC training, we emphasize this a lot through the 8 days training that we have, the 8 days certification training, by letting everyone go through a lot of exercise with us, so that to go through exactly all these 4 steps in the 8 days of about 80 hours of training. And when we try to look at this slide here, okay, it's a repetition. Okay. Now, now that we have talked a little bit about intercultural coaching, tell me from, or rather, now that we have looked a bit about what is dimension of coaching, and that the elements of dimension of culture and the elements of coaching. Tell me, what do you think this intercultural coaching involve? Right. Take 20 seconds to think about what you think intercultural coaching is, and then we have a little bit of exercise thereafter and some more examples and frameworks that I want to share with you on cultural framework. Okay. Yes. Adriani mentioned that make people feel good living or interacting with other cultures. Good. Lisbeth mentioned that awareness of cultural differences, allowing for people for this in your coaching. Pedro mentioned to help client integrate to the new culture. Yes. Pilar mentioned involve reflecting about your own culture as well as learning about the culture of the coachee. Yes. It has to do with understanding without judging. Marina. And Adriani mentioned open the minds to other ways of thinking. Yes. Understanding and respect for differences. Mazena. Good. Gladdy, I haven't seen your answer. Gladdy, tell me, what do you think? What is intercultural coaching for you? There is a typo there, as you mentioned, as you could see, intercultural coaching, cultural coaching there. It's a double. Mazena mentioned that understanding and respect for differences. And Tatiana mentioned helping people become aware of potential stumble blocks stemming from cultural differences. Yeah. Gladdy. Harish, openness and respect for others. Gladdy mentioned it is fundamental for success in any culture. Okay. Fundamental for success in any culture. Okay. Tell me a little bit more, what do you mean, Gladdy? Right. So as you think about that, I will now go to the next slide. If you look at the situations here, it gives you a sense of what intercultural coaching can do for different people. Of course, there are a lot more situations, not on here, but if you are looking forward to earn a living with intercultural coaching, most of the time, who is going to pay for your services are unlike life coaching where it can be individual. Most of the time, this will be from corporations. And in the company that I'm working, we handle conflicts with corporation in mergers and acquisitions, and we do intercultural coaching for executive, for expatriates. So when you look at the list here, it's very much focused on corporate clients. And of course, as I now read on, managers who need to lead international team, trainers who need to conduct trainings to a foreign community, HR who needs to manage expatriates, executive leading multicultural groups, yeah, and and also local staff, local team. In this case, is business coaching with intercultural twist to it, where your team members are suffering because of a foreign boss, and that everyone is low in morale, not motivated, or scared to go to work, or totally do not want to go to work. Business coaches who are coaching in international arena, which is across cultures, and consultants in helping corporations through mergers and acquisition. That's where our company deals in, where I am the director for the coaching, interculture, and diversity practice. Okay, Gladdy mentioned to treasure new cultures without giving up your own. Very good, very good. I like this answer, Gladdy. And Margarita mentioned, how much do you have to know about cultures of your coaching manage? Do you mean how much do you need to know about your coachee's culture? Is that right, Margarita? Ah, okay. No. Okay. I have two margarita. One say yes and one say no. Um, Obviously, it's two different person. Um, Margarita G. Rejal mentioned yes. No. So explain to me a little bit, what do you mean by your questions about culture of your coachee? How much do you have to know about the cultures your coachee manage? Okay, I think you mean by how much do you need to know about your coach's culture? Well, in the next slide, this question will be answered. Okay, and in likewise, in a lot of coaching situations, you cannot be the expert in all the topics that the coachee is talking about. And you cannot be, it's impossible, because everyone has different expertise. But when in a coaching session, who has the answers is the coachee. But it's really the questions that the coach asks to direct those kind of reflections to help the coachee reflect and come up with the answers that can help in his or her situation. And intercultural coaching, there is a need to establish the cultural dimension there about in terms of the coachee as well as the coach, which I will now talk about right now. Okay. So the objective in intercultural coaching is to improve efficiency, to change disruptive behavior, use of potential of diversity in the team, and international business. That is a problem with my slide here, but it's basically to help international business. Especially today's world, you deal with a lot of companies in merger or acquisition or international projects, PMO, we call it, involve multicultural teams, and there is a lot of conflicts between subgroups based on where they are from, based on their culture. And what I want to share with you right now is the core of today's on my webinar, is really this integrating the coaching framework with intercultural framework. And what is the objective? The objective really, we know about the problems with the lack of understanding culture. Now is to achieve intercultural mindset. And it sounds so abstract, right? Because what is achieve intercultural mindset? And there's a lot of aspects where I think I read out the answers from everyone, like to enjoy your stay, to be more effective in a different culture, to make use of other culture and have synergies. And let me see now. Margarita asked me a question. So the questions are more directed to know what disturbs the coachee and help him or her analyze what can help. Yes, yes. And there will be some example. There will be a coaching exercise at the end of this. So I'd like you to hold your question a little bit more, okay, and hold that thought and be with me. And if you look at this framework real quick, if you integrate these 2 points here, the dimensions in cultures, all these dimensions in culture, each dimension itself has so many things to talk about, and it can have so many issues and problems. How do we put a framework across this such that we integrate the 2 coaching framework? The coaching framework from ICC is we go through these 7 steps about how we do a coaching session, the listening, asking powerful questions, changing limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs, using your intuition, goal setting, putting on leverage points, and maximizing change. And then if you want to integrate these 2 points together now with cultural dimensions, each one of these cultural dimensions, as I mentioned, is really a topic itself for you to study. And what I want to bring to your attention today is this next point here, is to achieve intercultural mindset. Milton Burnett, he talked about this cultural sensitivity model, and there is a tool to measure one's cultural sensitivity called the IDI, which I am a qualified administrator to use this tool. So like the Myers-Briggs Myers-Briggs personality test, right? You test about a person's personality profile. This IDI profile helps you to understand your coach's level of intercultural development, where he is right now. So a person could be from denial all the way to adaptation. So in this model, we talk about monocultural mindset, where everybody is the same, and that it is very common for people who have not left their country before or have never interacted with any foreigners. They don't think that people are different. People from another country is different from them. It's like, no, it's a total denial. And we are talking about from here a monocultural mindset to a more intercultural mindset, and that is the objective of intercultural coaching. Because when you achieve intercultural mindset, most of the issues and conflicts will be resolved like a snap, right? And likewise, today is not really the time to go through with you about the model in much detail, but it's to give you some of the frameworks for you to do your own research, or even better, to participate in my following webinars. So this slide here shows you about a person being in denial towards acceptance and adaptation, so that to achieve intercultural mindset. So it is in intercultural coaching, we want our coachee to understand differences of himself between him and the rest. But before you can help him understand to change, you need to let him know where he is, and that's the point. You'll be much easier to go where you want to be, where you want to go, if you know where you are right now. And this is what this tool do, and this concept help us. And we talked about the risk of dealing with different cultures. And I want to throw you this question real quickly. My favorite scientist, he said, what does a fish know about the water in which he swims all his life? Think about this. Do you think it makes sense, this question that Einstein proposed? And I would ask you, does a fish know that it is in water? Raise your hand if you think that, yes, the fish know that it is in water. Okay. Mazina, no. No, Dabajara said no. If you have no, and Beth mentioned, if you have no comparison, you would never know the nature. No, no, no. Okay, good. Well, to do a quick poll, maybe you just raise your hand. Raise your hand if you think that the fish know that it is in water. If you think it's yes, raise your hand right now. We'll just do a quick count. Alejandro, any What's the status with the counts? Do you have any quick updates on that?
About 2% raised their hand.
About, yes, a fish knows that it's in water. Well, the fish know that it is in it is in water unless it is out of water, right? So that kind of answers that question. And I think someone said, Lisbeth said, if you have no comparison, you will never know the real nature of your element. And the saying goes, if you don't know your own, you do not know your own culture until you meet another, which is basically this comparison as well. And that's one of the key difficulties in learning about cultures and coaching about culture. And I want you to just rate yourself 1 to 5. Okay, you don't have to tell me now what's your own rating, but I think it's very important that you rate yourself and have a good understanding of how you think, how much you know about your own culture. Okay, because of the time limitations, I will not go too much into this, but focus on the examples and the quiz later on that I think will be more effective for people attending this 1-hour seminar. One good thing about culture is it is entirely learned, and it's not due to our genes. And someone right in the beginning of the webinar mentioned about identity as well. Yes, culture is very much linked with identity. How you see yourself in a certain group, how you affiliate yourself with a certain group. And it is something when we always say, oh, this is how we do it back home. We have always done it this way. Okay, and when you see someone who is coming from a different culture from you, what you see from the exterior is just what you see, like dress code, how he talks, the accent, the posture, the food he eats, the facial expression, the symbols that he would use, the hand gestures. But there are many other things that that is not obvious, which I think in the dimensions I've stressed a lot in the past few slides. The thinking patterns, the time consciousness, the sense of space, how they learn, how they think about learning, these are all invisible to you. So let's look at this situation and test your own cultural understanding. This is a real situation which is very current, and Google decided to do something to help Amazon, and that a tribe for Amazon actually asked for Google's help to track the kind of deforestation going on in Amazon, and that Google have invited the chief of the tribe to go to the head office and then to learn about using technology to help their tribe on protecting their culture and protecting their the Amazon as a means to record and share, protect the cultural heritage of the rainforest. Because today, very sadly, there's a lot of illegal cutting down of trees and etc. So if you are faced with this situation, and that you are the project leader for Google, and you ask the chief Almir to come and live with you for 18 months so that he can prepare and use all the skills and technology back in the Amazon, and thinking about Chief Amir, you have no idea what is their cultural background, and that all you know is that he has lived in the forest all his life, and that he will now live with you in your home and work with your colleagues for the next 18 months. Some of the things that I want you to think about right now, in this situation, how would you prepare this chief to prepare before he comes to your country, what do you tell him about the culture of your people? What do you think is interesting about your own culture? What do you like most about your own culture? What do you like least about your own culture? What does it mean to be polite in your culture? If you could change one thing about your culture, what would that be? Right. I'm still getting some answers here. Let me see. The answers are coming in right now. So take just 1 minute to answer a few of these questions. You don't have to answer all the questions, but think about this question, because these questions, if you reflect on doing intercultural coaching, it's very important. First of all, the coachee, when he comes to you, he will come to you as an expert of the culture that he would like to work with, or to give him some insights, about culture. Because when you start selling your coaching hours in terms of intercultural coaching, these are some of the experts, these are some of the angles or questions that you need to think about to help your coachee think in a different perspective, because some of these things that you take for granted is totally different from the coachee perspective. And in this example I especially selected is because, well, it's very extreme. Somebody who have never been in contact with civilization, and now he has to live with you in Poland, in Denmark, wherever you are, civilized, with electricity, with washing machines, with everything. What are these things that you could tell him first? Right. So I'm just now going to read the answers that's coming through right now. Pedro mentioned about, oh, thank you. It's a comment. He said, amazing questions. Tatiana mentioned hospitality. ML Margarita said that I will tell him about the environment, the space, the power, the type of thinking. Mariana, first the basic things as saluting, I think you mean greeting, dressing, food manners, yes. And Margarita G. Rejal mentioned that I like too much the multicultural background of my country, but in business sometimes it's not easy for many people to work among us. Okay, that's something I think you need to explore, Margarita, because when you said something, not too many people, not too easy, you need to think about what makes it difficult for people to work with your culture, right? Okay. Pilar mentioned that I think it would be essential to learn about his culture in order to present the information in a way he can relate to. Good. And how would you then, to these questions, how would you supply some examples for him to start thinking about, what are the things that you can tell him about your culture before he comes, that assuming that you know nothing about his culture. Okay, Marina said that that he's going to find different things, technology items, and how do they work and what for. Petro mentioned my priority would be speak his language. Marina mentioned how the people would receive him and look at him. Okay. It's really a quote from Einstein again. He mentioned something really interesting. He said, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. So for somebody entering into your culture, and that if you only have 10 minutes with him, what are the key things that you need to highlight to him? In this extreme case where he comes from Amazon, well, I can tell you for one thing, coming from Singapore, people from Singapore, we are obsessed with cleanliness. We are obsessed with being organized. That's a national obsession. So, and I think people from Germany can relate to that as well in terms of organization. We want things people from Germany like things to be organized, structured. And flexibility is very important in Brazil. So flexibility is important, you know, and respecting one another is important. So these are simple things: safety issue, and about speaking the language. Well, in a short time, if you can't speak his language, there's always a workaround. Get a translator. Okay. Now, quickly now, take 10 seconds now just to rate yourself or your own culture again. What do you think now about your own understanding, of your own culture now, after going through this quick exercise? So if there is a big difference between the answers that you have given me before and now, it's a good time for you to do some reflection about how much you know about your own culture, because this is really fundamental in any form of intercultural coaching or training or anything to do with intercultural issues. Your understanding of your own culture most of the time is the key to help the other party to have a different perspective. Because if you are not sure about your own culture, you have your own blind spots, and that we highlight that during our coaching certification process is if the coach have an issue with some with the issues that the coachee is going through, it's very difficult for the coach to help the coachee to have new insights, because he has blind spots and that he is not able to overcome some of the blind spots to provide new perspective for the coachee. So this is what I'm getting at. Okay. Roberto asked me, is this test valid for any other concept? When you say any other concept, I can only narrow it down to coaching and in intercultural issues, because when you want to drill into intercultural issues, it is essential, absolutely essential, that you are in touch with your own values, your own beliefs, surrounding how you do things in your culture, how you make judgment in your own culture. And of course, habits are not made in a day or two. It's been built up since the day from you are born. And it's something that researchers say, culture, if you want to relate culture to human beings and computers, culture is like the software that runs a computer. Today, we have different kind of software, like your Linux, your Windows, and your Apple. And you know, everyone knows now that Apple uses the same hardware as PC. He used Intel. They use Intel chip, and that there's really not much difference between the hardware. But what makes really the difference, that makes the real difference is actually the software that runs the hardware. And culture can be seen, you can make a relation as an analogy as the software of our mind, because if you have two twin brothers or twin sisters or twins who are separated from birth, one lived in Brazil and another lived in Germany, for instance, where the difference in culture is very, very different, flexibility and structured. And when after 20 years you put them together, observe them, what can be the kind of cultural conflicts and intercultural miscommunications that come between the two brothers. And this is something is very real, because if they are twin, they come from the same parent, and that their heritage can only be affected because of their upbringing, which is the culture aspect. So I hope this answers your question, Roberto. Maria mentioned when one has a bad reputation like Colombia about drugs, it is important to make them know the difference. Marina mentioned, I wonder if each one of us think that we understand our own culture, but only from our very personal point of view according to our personality and preferences. Yes and no, Marina. And this is where I think the cultural framework will help you to understand them, get to know about what exactly what is your own cultural background, what makes you think, what makes you think the way you are thinking today? How do you make judgment what is good, what is bad? What is beauty for you and what is ugly for you? What is good for you? Many times is a cultural question. And let's take an example. Agenda. Agenda, which is time-based. And agenda is something very cultural. What do I mean by that? Today we started 5 minutes after we started 5 minutes after we planned to start. We didn't start on time. If you are from Germany or if you are coming from the States, you would think that you would start to make judgment by saying, oh, these people are not serious about what they're doing. They can't even start their webinar on time. And now we just touched 1600 hours. And that if you're from a country on South America where it is important, time is not so much important. It's about how you use the time in building relationships, and that whether you end on time or not is not so much important compared to what you get to do during that time. So being late or being not finishing on time for South America, people from South America is less important compared to people from the States where they say, okay, the meeting has to stop at 7 because it's 7. That's where we plan for agenda. So this is very cultural. Tatiana says, I think the main challenge here is to explain the nature of your culture, not just knowing it. Comments to Marina's comment. Okay. And I would like to draw back to the same point here. The cultural framework that's based on these dimensions is to help you to move away from the thinking that or the assumption that everyone is the same as you. Because if you make the same assumption, for example, starting on time and ending on time, this is how efficiency should be. You should start on time, end on time. If you don't start on time, that means you make judgment. If you run late and not able to close on time, and then you make judgment again. These are all judgments based on what we call the building blocks of culture. When we talk in the subsequent webinars, I will go more in details about exactly these frameworks, cultural framework. And again, I want to come back to my main objective today. Is not really to go into in deep details about how this what are this dimension, what are this framework are, but to draw attention, to keep you now on the radar screen now, that these are some of the frameworks that if you have not think about, you need to start to think about before you want to embark into intercultural coaching. Okay, let me see now. There is some more comments. I think Tatiana said, I think the main, oops, because there's so many questions coming in, the screen keep moving. Tatiana said, I think the main challenge here is to explain the nature of the culture and not just understanding it. Okay, not just knowing it. Lisbeth mentioned you have lived in several very different cultures. How do you manage? Do you assimilate, adapt, or are you just aware? Well, Lisbeth, to answer this question in a plain answer, I have to relearn everything whenever I go to a new country. But I can tell you one thing, it gets easier each time, and that it gets even easier if you know what are these cultural frameworks. What are these cultural frameworks? Just to give you a quick taste of what's to come ahead in the following webinars, is to think about individualistic or collectivism, about being universal or being particular, being monochronic or being polychronic. So all these terms might be Greek to you at the moment now, but that's fine, because these are really terms that you need to get involved to at least understand on a broad level. How does that relate to you in understanding your own culture? Because once you understand that, how it relates to you, the questions that you are able to make to your coach will make a lot more sense. Adriani mentioned each time are more mixed cultures in the world. There are already different difficulty to generalize a culture. People have to learn simply to respect each other. Yes, respect is very important in confronting with a culture that is different from us or something that is alien. Okay, right, Harish has to leave. Okay, I have already got into my 1600 hours and now it's 16:05 back here. And I would just end this session with you with some of the prerequisites in intercultural coaching. It's you need to home in on your coaching skills. That is that's, I think, fundamental, where you need to know about how good you are in your coaching skill. Your ethics are important from the coach, because in intercultural coaching, it's very difficult for a foreigner to trust somebody in a foreign land. So when you are engaged as an intercultural coach, it is even more important that you display high ethics. Yeah, and foreign language skills is important here because it helps you to go through a thinking process about understanding how your coachee is going through when he needs to speak and think in a different language where he was born in. And overseas experience and working with foreigners is key, because without this, there is very little, I would say blind spots. You will have a lot of blind spots if you want to embark in a career in intercultural coaching, if you're still lacking in overseas experience or working with foreigners. It's something that you need to look into. All right, and culture competency, intercultural knowledge of the coach is something that you can learn, which is that's why I'm here for in the subsequent webinars. Right, so I've talked about this before. So my time is up for today. Right, there is a training coming up that I'll be conducting in Brazil from 11th of November to 18th of November. This is a standard ICC Level 1 coaching certification. It will be conducted in English. What is different from this coaching certification from any other is that there will be 3 additional sessions just specially highlighting on intercultural issues, which is which to home in on your skill sets for intercultural coaching. There will be this will be web-based apart from the in present, yeah. And yeah, before I close for today's session, it is I would like to invite you to just give me one word what you think about today's session. Your feedback. It does not need to be a lot of words or a sentence. It could be just one word or a few words or one sentence. If you were to tell me one word, what would that word represent how you think or how you feel right now after the 60 minutes that we were together for this webinar? Okay, Petro mentioned thank you about for your lights. Oh, thank you. Lisbeth mentioned I would like to dig in deeper and look forward to the next seminars. Thank you. Tabayara mentioned thank you very much. Gostei. Obrigado. Fatima mentioned adaptation. Luis mentioned stimulating. Maria mentioned curious. Sophia mentioned interesting. Charlotte mentioned enlightened. ML Margarita mentioned critical importance. Marina mentioned aware of differences and how to adapt to them. Roberto mentioned very useful, thanks, thank you as well. Pilia mentioned appetizer. Well, yes, I hope you will come back for the subsequent one where we drew in further on the specific framework itself. Christina mentioned one word, enlarge. Gladys, loved it, thank you. I hope you loved it more when you come back. Tatiana, thank you. Good chance to refresh previous knowledge. Thank you. Marzina mentioned good thought-provoking questions. Marina mentioned conscience. Okay, thank you very much. Margarita said it helps a lot with the new project you have. Michelle mentioned confronting. Fatima, thank you very much. So I thank you for your time with me today, and that I have now 10 minutes late. Well, not too late, and as well as not quite much on time. So I'll now pass back to Alejandro to close the session. And yeah, Sam, just tell me who you are if you want to receive the slides from me, okay? By sending me an email or typing in your request in the chat.
Many thanks, Nick, for this inspiring webinar, and I'm sure we can share more during the next ones we have already scheduled, so we invite you again to be with us on next sessions. And just to let you know that all this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the website. So besides the slides, you have the recording live to watch it again. So thanks to you all for the time we spent together, and looking forward to meet you in next ICC webinar. Have a good day. Bye.